I'm laughing at that. It's fader time, sorry.
It's quite funny, and so is the background. Reminiscent of Summerslam. The Summerslam special here tonight on WrestleDope. We've got lots to talk about, matches to flesh out, and of course after last Monday night's Raw, the Raw that really was, let's talk our way to SummerSlam. That is where we were left off. But I actually enjoyed this past Raw because it really created a backstory for a lot of these matches that we're going to see on SummerSlam, and of course a lot of them just really came into being this week. We're seeing pairings put together on SmackDown and in fact all over Raw, and it actually feels like there might be one or two more as well to come.
Yeah, definitely, yeah. Some kind of strange matches on the SmackDown side of things, but they kind of left it so late, I think, with the bookings, or at least to announce what the card was. I think they had to rush a lot of that talking, as you said, or even push it more so and pull back with the wrestling side of things this week. But some serious dips as well, I thought, on the Raw. As strong as it was, there was a lot of dips in there. One being that John Laurinaitis section. I don't know. I thought it just bombed for whatever reason. I'm not sure if it's because people weren't familiar with him as an on-screen character, or people just, the general public didn't really know much about him, but I just thought he completely bombed there for those couple of minutes when he was out there. I liked seeing his impression of him, though. I will say it did get a chuckle out of me.
What a debut for John Laurinaitis, and what a promo he cut. It's something I think we could talk about at length later. I know, like myself, I'm sure that's one you'd like to go over, and I think that's definitely something that people in the chat room will talk about as well, because his name has been just revered as such a key figure, hasn't it? And this is his time now to go out there and kind of say to the rest of the talent, well, I've been bossing you about for however many years, and here's my take on what it's like and what I should do in the ring. He's been talked about as a veteran and a guy that kind of went through Japanese wrestling companies and apparently did a lot there. Some people said to kind of hurt his body and to sort of really, you know, he worked hard is what I'm trying to say. How he worked this time, it's another matter, but we will definitely get to that, I think. Now, I think one of those main subjects that has been continuously in the air has been CM Punk, and the fact that he now is such a huge part of the show. I felt like he came out to massive pops. Now, this is a time where they kind of have to kind of decide, is he going to be one of those tweeners where he's stone cold, he's not a heel but he's not a baby face, or is he going to be one or the other outright?
I think from his tone that he's using on his voice, he's kind of on a thin line of, yeah, I'm babyface, but if I go too babyface, then that's going to destroy this kind of popularity that I've not suddenly got, because he's always had popularity, but the sudden rise in popularity that he's achieved with his promos and his whole gimmick as of late. Would he sign, would he not sign, all that stuff, and his new take on the Punk character, I suppose. The thing about it is, I think in some way, I can probably say it, in some way it has gone to his head a little bit. I think you know, he knows his value, and you can kind of see that for the most part he's going to get away with a lot more on the mic, and I'm sure a lot of those promos are kind of open scripted where he might have bullet points to go on it, but he's shooting for the most part, and we saw that heavily with the Triple H segment at the start of the Raw. But it's like Cole. I think Cole's another one, not to go on a tangent about it, but he's gotten so much into that character that he's getting away with absolute murder in a sense at this stage, and I don't know, I think there's got to be a cut-off point for it somewhere down the line, and I think it's going to start pissing people off no matter how far it goes. I know people can take it on board, and Trips probably can take it big time. He's a grown man, and I'm sure JR likewise with Cole, but you know, for Punk, you know, I'm expecting him to probably get buried sometime soon. I don't think this is going to last forever.
It's a good comparison you make with Cole, because he is an example of another character that's basically been allowed to run riot and do whatever he wants. I mean, I just saw this week Cole is on 2 shows. He's on the SmackDown and the Raw, which of course means he's also on the Superstars. The only place you can get away from Cole now is NXT. And by the way, you'll be shocked to know season 5 is still running.
Wow.
It's still on, and we're going to talk about how that is the most overlooked piece of WWE programming later on. Not that it's incredible, but yeah, it's still there, and they're still talking about a guy winning a spot for season 6.
Wow.
But that's still to come here on YouTube and also on livestream.com. When it comes to Punk, it's a good question. Should he be allowed to even storyline run riot? It's certainly built him to this point, and we kind of expect him to be able to get away with all sorts of stuff. But is it time maybe now to pull back on that? The contract is signed now. Well, I suppose Punk is likely to be built like a Stone Cold, so they're probably going to stay firmly, I think, on this route. But I was thinking that maybe it's probably a bad idea. I know some people have said in the room that he is a bit more heel now, and I would agree with that, but for him to actually go full babyface, I don't think that's a good idea, because you're giving up then on a top heel. You're giving up on a guy who actually we were touting about 6 months ago would be the next Orton. He'd be the guy who slotted into Orton's position on Raw, and without a shadow of a doubt he's there now, having matches with Cena. But what a moment though at the end of the Raw, where you had them both holding up the WWE
music
title.
switch over, yeah.
And the music switch over. But what was funny about that was, I think Punk actually won that battle. And it might have been shoot.
That's funny. Yeah, I'm sure the sound man is getting paid well enough, because I mean that to do that alone would probably just fry anyone's brain. As far as Punk goes, I suppose with the lack of a Jericho, Orton is baby facing up, although he's getting a bit angry over there on SmackDown. That role is kind of open, I think, to someone on Raw, and they shouldn't. Although he's over as the kind of the anti WWE guy, I suppose. For him to go complete babyface is going to be a bit of a nightmare. People will, as wrestling fans do, as soon as it's popular in any way, they'll turn their back on it. So if they can, I think they can keep him on a steady line the way he is. Have that tone of voice, I suppose, not as creepy or as straight edge society as he was that time. Just keep it, that bit on the babyface side of things, and still get away with, being the anti-Trips and the anti-Vince and the anti-corporate kind of guy.
Something that really damaged my take on the Punk character this week, and I suggest you might search for it and have a look for it on YouTube. It was like a 5-second clip, and the title was CM Punk thinks he's Marlon Brando, and basically I could actually tell you the face. Do you know that face
that he does?
He's been making recently with the kind of greased hair. If you saw it, you know exactly what I'm talking about. But it took that 5 seconds to go, oh God, they're right. He's trying to play Marlon Brando. He's trying to play some kind of fearsome. I see right through it.
Right.
Don't watch that video. It had about 100,000 hits, and I'm sure a lot of people felt the same. But
yeah.
I was thinking about stuff going on from here, because the future for the guy, is it somebody who's going to be built for 6 months to a year, and then they just let him off completely, he's done, forget about him, and he's buried for another year? Or will this be a proper sustained push? I hope that he's basically not being put in a position where he's fodder to get Cena to The Rock. And I know everybody's got to occupy a part of the year and have a program, and this is his first maybe shot at a huge program that's going to lead to something like a SummerSlam, and of course with a guy like Cena the money is going to be a lot higher as well.
Yeah.
But what's going to happen afterwards is a question. But I think maybe, I like the idea that he has this belt, he's got one, and he can go to another territory still. It made me think again about this possibility of a Ring of Honor invasion.
Mm-hmm.
How would you react to that happening? Colt Cabana, guys like that, they're in the mix now. You can talk about how, they've been in the crowd for pay-per-views and things like that. Why not? I mean, I would love to see that now.
It's been speculated that there has been, internet rumors, as there always is, that Ring of Honor are going to do some sort of, not an invasion, but the are going to work with them in some way. I know for a fact that Colt Cabana did work a dark match there, actually, SmackDown wise. So whether he's been taken on or they're just capitalizing on his popularity because of Punk, or who knows what, maybe Trips has given him a chance or Vince has given him a second chance, God knows. But it'll be interesting to see, I suppose, how that pans out. As far as them working together, it would be great for Ring of Honor with their new contract with that company, whatever it is, Sinclair, and it will get them a lot of exposure. I don't know if they need to, but you know, over, so never say never. As far as Punk going forward, it's so true. I think he could fall, you know, take a nasty fall if he does get squashed. I think the one that will be likely to squash him, I don't think it'll be Cena, because as you say, he'll probably go on and do his deal with The Rock for maybe Survivor Series up until WrestleMania. But I'm sure it'll be Triple H if it's anyone. And as we said last week, he has been known to steal a spotlight on many occasions. So if it is anyone, it'll be Trips or it'll be Vince, who will just put an end to it, and he can do it so quickly. I remember, I suppose, I wouldn't. It's a bad comparison, but look at the popularity that the Pope had at one stage, and now he's just hanging out, doing matches with Devon and stuff like that. So it can be. That's a terrible comparison, but you know, you can take a bit of a nasty fall at the best of times.
Yeah, it's the age-old story in the last couple of years, and maybe forever in the wrestling world, isn't it? Guys like Mr. Kennedy and the Pope, those are the two prime-time WWE guys that many feel were left down when it was their time to finally get a full and sustained push. They all got their time, but then suddenly they just decide, right, well, I'm going sour. It's such a politic business, isn't it? And so much of it we'll never understand, because it could be something as simple as a guy maybe, you know, saying something off to one of the bookers, and that's it. Then that guy has enough power to keep the guy away from being booked properly. And I would say it's a deadly backstabbing business to be in, to have people like that constantly trying to you know, backstab and I suppose trying to get their spot and trying to upgrade their own position. I mean, it applies to everything really, but it's something that I think is probably so hard to play, and if Punk genuinely did play a political game behind the scenes, and of course we know that so many of those real life dramas and angles end up being turned into storyline angles, so it was a bit of inspiration for the team. If this was all him, then again, hats off to him for being so kind of I think up on what he could do in that PG remit. And as he's been saying now in the promos, he wants to keep us all interested. And I just kind of hope somewhere in that it's the WWE writers going, you know, we're not giving up on perhaps our age group, you know.
Well, I think it goes to show so many people cry out for the Attitude Era, and I think we've always said that, you know, I will say, and I think you will as well, that we were never the biggest fans of that era. I mean, it was good or whatever, but it wasn't, you know, the greatest thing on the planet or whatever. And it shows you can stay within that safety zone of PG and still have a good show that you want to tune in to next week just to see what's going on with him and that whole angle. So, you know, I think props to him as well, I suppose, for keeping it entertaining and keeping it fresh week upon week. It hasn't become stale just yet, and he's doing a really good job. So hopefully it continues for quite some time. I don't know how much he can pull out of it, but it was pretty funny stuff again on Monday night with him and Trips. So let's hope it continues.
It's true what you say. It might seem like we're Attitude Era marks, and as you say there, it's only really because they set a bar at that point. And you know, people talked about ECW, how could you bring in all the chairs and the weapons and then come back from that? You know, everybody expects that high spot. So that's, I think, where people got stuck with the Attitude Era, because suddenly it kind of matched, I think, what, say, people who've grown up with the product. Suddenly we were now seeing something that perhaps was similar to, you know, the movies that we were finally allowed to watch. So it kind of, it tied in with, I suppose, when people were growing up, and then they had to reset it at some point to bring it back for that new audience. But yeah, it's true, you know, it wasn't the most incredible. There's a lot of messy stuff that went on, and guys who've been so forgotten, you know. I mean, it definitely was better than 95, but was it better than, say, you know, SummerSlam 92, Royal Rumble 91? I suppose that's all subjective in a sense, but just to talk to all of you in the chat room, Sonic Akuma, pay-per-views are up because of the economic rebound, and Filibuster, well, that rebound is about to go out of bounds. Captain Charisma, 85% is disappointing. I think there was something else here in the chat. And SP103, welcome to you from Justin.tv. I know we've got that black screen simulcast over on Justin.tv/WrestleDope Radio, just to let them all know that we are still on. I think a lot of people thought we were gone, actually. Gone altogether.
Oh boy, well that's not too good. But at least the Justin peeps are coming over slowly but surely. We've got what now, 5 of the old regulars, 6 maybe? Plus a couple of more, but for the real peeps, the dope... we need a name from like Dope Bites or something like that.
I laughed because I think it was Sean Kinsella. Sean on the YouTube said, you want to see this? He said, come back, I need my fix. I laughed at that.
Oh,
you know,
that's good.
So I got to put him over for that, you know.
Dope Heads, that's probably the best one. Yeah.
Dope Heads, yeah. Yeah, I mean, dope.
Edge Heads,
yeah.
Dope Heads.
Yeah.
That makes sense.
Captain Charisma, the Attitude Era, did have problems, especially when Russo left. Then they stepped up very quickly.
Say that again, sorry?
Well, basically, you know, it's this Russo, basically saying that, you know, Russo went and then suddenly the product was stepped up. Now, I wouldn't be that educated, actually, at all on Russo's involvement, but...
I've said it a million times. I mean, you know, people always bash him. If you look back at the peak, or his track, and I guarantee you go, oh, Jesus, that was Russo, all right. That's some funny stuff, because there's so much for everything that he's bashed for. There's a million things that he did a hell of a lot better than a lot of the others. So I'm not going on a Russo mark thing here or anything, but I think the guy does get a bit of a bad rap. He
does. Actually, it reminds me, and it all ties in, doesn't it? Attitude Era, Punk, where we're going now, whether they will bring Paul Heyman back or what. I mean, he's got to come back to something, doesn't he? But thinking about Russo, what was it I saw? It was a shoot interview, and he was talking about the David Arquette becoming the champion.
Right, I mean, there was a few dodgy decisions there, yeah.
Well, you know, to be honest with you, I always thought that, but when I saw him sitting there explaining what that was all about, I actually was like, okay, I totally get it now. You know, he talked about how, okay, so we suddenly kind of brainstormed this in a meeting or whatever. It goes into a lot more depth than this, and it's in one of those shoot interviews, but essentially he goes on about how, well, you know, next day it was in the USA Today, for front page, whatever, David Arquette photo, and she's kind of said, well, I get it, you know, it's wrestling, it's a work, it's promoting, and without a doubt, that was I think it was his explanation. So I recommend actually listening to his shoots.
Yeah, I read his book. I actually thought it was quite good. I think that's why I kind of, you know, I'm a bit more at ease with his side of things. I think once you hear it from himself, you know.
Exactly, you need to, because it's coming from word of somebody who was there, and I think so many of the workers kind of give out about him and really don't have a whole lot to back it up. They kind of talk about the angles they remember. Well, there is probably a few stories about maybe backstage altercations as well, but talking about this Ring of Honor invasion before moving on from Punk, you know, I think that if you brought in some of the guys that are in there, like that American Wolves tag team, and, you know, of course Colt Cabana, you're saying now, is doing some stuff as well. Other names that are in there, they feel like they'd be more legit than ECW guys when they were brought in. Because, of course, you had guys then that maybe had the Rock t-shirts and things like that. Ring of Honor guys feel like athletes, you know, much more so than many other companies.
I would have a concern in the fact that I think ECW compared to Ring of Honor, I would guess, was probably more people knew about it. It was more of a cult thing, and definitely a lot more wrestling fans probably turned to it, especially at the time WWE, what they were showing at that time. I think the thing is with Ring of Honor, no matter what way you look at it, although it would be kind of cool, a lot of those guys are still just guys in tights, you know. You bring in an Eddie Edwards, what's to say he's different from a Johnny Curtis, you know. That's where I see it. So I don't know if it's the best thing in the world. Yeah, it would help them beneficially. It would be great for them and would give them a good foot up in the business. But, you know, there are a lot of Johnny Curtises floating around there no matter what way you look at it.
Filibuster says WrestleDope, wrestling and stock market chat. I wonder where that came out of. Filibuster, book it, and SP103, book it, and Russo it. SP103, I botched on the last one. They treat their superstars like girls and need to let them do more in the ring. Matty PN01, the Ring of Honor TV tapings start again next Saturday. I'm actually going to try and get onto this from the very beginning, and I hope they make it available. You know, if it's not signed to be on TV in a part of the world, then make it available online yourself.
Yeah.
You know, why are you going to make guys actually rip it, you know, force them to pirate it?
Because it's just going to happen anyway, really.
Yeah, like a little flash, they could set up a just-in channel and show it once a week.
Yep.
And then people see it who don't get to see it. You'd probably get, you know, guys buying DVDs at that point. But
Even on their website, license free, put the shows up. You know, like they do with, don't they do with SmackDown and Superstars in the States on that Hulu, is it? Hulu.com?
Yep, yeah.
So we don't have that stuff over here. So even still, like, if you want to see SmackDown or whatever, you'd have to probably burn it, or not burn it, but whip it down from some torrent or something if you didn't have the channels or the satellite.
That's the big problem. We're really kind of stuck, and you know, it should be on free TV here, but I suppose that's another issue altogether. I think there is a bit of stock talk in there. Actually, wasn't it Phil who mentioned before that he does actually have stocks in the E? And yeah,
really?
I mean, yeah, you can do, you know, you can get on that stock sort of shareholder deal as well. I have no idea.
We should get some stock markets going here.
It would be good. Actually, I like the Vincent Durden as well. I know that name from the Justin room. Basically, what's happened here is all our Justin guys have come over. I don't think anyone from live stream.
Oh, that's alright. So as long as there's people here, I suppose.
Exactly. Yeah. Exactly. And I think as well, the more those numbers go up, people see that and they actually join the room then, and you know, live stream a bit of a test, if you like, a kind of a you know, a little example of where we could stay. We could be here if you want us to stay here. It really doesn't matter at this point. I mean, we can go to any site. But there you can see on the video, the live stream chat room, and that's where we are. And of course also to check out WrestleDope on Facebook. If you did kind of lose touch with us, we'll say, over the last weeks and maybe thought we were gone and this and that, you can always see on the Facebook whether we're still there or not. I think we will tell people, you know.
Yeah, that's true.
When we're done, we'll let you know.
Yeah, it's good. It's good to be part of Facebook. Even if it's for uploads that might happen midweek randomly, even though it doesn't really happen. Although I will say, on the 24/7 now on live stream, I think I saw something that was never broadcast up there. Would I be right? Was there one, like, I think I just tuned in.
Stuff on Justin, is it?
No, on live stream. Maybe I'm wrong now, but something there that I saw on the 24/7 dope thing, and I was like,
possibly, yeah, yeah.
What the hell is that?
Well, there's so much, is there? I mean, you know, most of our videos, and I can say it really without worry, that a lot of them went just so under the radar that probably a lot of you guys have seen them yourselves. There's so many over the months that it just became a collection of video up there. But I'm sure there's stuff that maybe you haven't seen as well. But it's going to be more funnier, we were just saying, in a long time from now, when we actually look back at this stuff. I mean, it's... You know, you'd wonder what we're going to think, but it'll be funny, I think. Captain Charisma, maybe that's when we should do the reunion, you know. Two of us sitting here, oh my god. You know, we could probably do it in 3D, you know. Hologram.
I was just going to say hologram, yeah.
Vincent Durden, Russo was alright at first, but now does the same stuff over and over again. Now doing the same stuff with TNA with Hogan. And I'm sorry to say, you know, I cannot talk. Well, maybe we'll look at the matches. I can't talk about TNA anymore.
It's rough.
Yeah, yeah. And I know you kind of stayed trooping with it for a long time.
I did.
I just couldn't.
I just started to turn it off, you know. Just turn it off.
Every time you look at it, you switch it on, and it's that shot from the crowd, and it's that blue ring. And it's just always, every time. It just, I don't know what it is. Every time I switch on, it seems. It
always seems like it's the same deal as whoever said there with Russo. SP1, no, Vincent Durden, is it? Yeah, that it's just the same deal. Yeah, over and over, this Fortune Immortal thing. Christ.
Yeah,
it's tough going, you know. And with Bully Ray floating around there, thinking he's running the place.
Absolutely,
things are in a bad state there, you know.
Welcome back as well to Mac Attack 90, and glad to see the stream is running well for you. And SP103 talking about Money in the Bank, and that was the subject of last week. I think we spent a good bit of time putting that one over because, yeah, it really was an incredible pay-per-view. SP saying I thought it was better than ECW 2006 with Cena or VD. And also people asking about Dave Birmingham. I tried to get him in the Frank Taylor channel, but he wasn't actually there at the time. But we'll try and get Dave back on board. We recruit the viewers
put them all back in.
We go straight on, more wrestling. Triple H, he's still over after all these years, and I find him very, very hard to dislike. I've seen the guy come out now with that smile and with that suit, and he comes off more likeable than John Laurinaitis.
He does, and I'll tell you one thing though. I think he's lost his touch when it comes to promos, unless he's nervous in his role as a COO or something. I'm not sure, but he was fairly shaky on Raw, I will say. I don't know if you copped that now, but
he was a bit
pretty shaky. Maybe it's the role and just getting back in the swing of things and concentrating more so on the constant talking as opposed to the constant beatdowns. But yeah, I suppose I never really looked at it like that. I don't really mind him. Actually, yeah, I don't really mind him being around. I hate DX Triple H. That's where I get he kind of loses me. But other than that, as the game, as COO, yeah, he's fine. He's doing a good job.
He's doing a great job, and it's funny you say that because he did feel like he was kind of waiting for those moments to jump in on the mic, but it was that. I think this is probably the John Laurinaitis spot, isn't it? Because where else are we going to stick him? But was it all the talk? And by the way, it's becoming an increasingly paranoid thing for me now when these things that we talk about occur. Now, I wish I could tell you 10 examples, but I just watch the program and it's things I see said in the chat room and things that we might say ourselves, but you know, I'm sure I've written some of them down, but I just feel like they are listening to us.
Yeah.
I said it a few times before, but one or two things anyway definitely makes me think it lately. I'll try and recount what those were soon, but I'm happy to see now that, you know, Laurinaitis at least was given the chance to be buried, because he's apparently, you know, not been easy to work with. Some people say allegedly that he's maybe, well, he's a good boss, let's say that.
I love that story with what's the chap who won Tough Enough this year? Silent Rage. What's his name again?
Was it Alex?
Andy.
Yeah.
Where Laurinaitis flipped out at him for not selling. What was it? No, he didn't sell the Stone Cold Stunner or something. And when he got to the back, Laurinaitis flipped the lid at him.
Really? Absolutely
went bonzo on the poor guy. Yeah, saying how you're going to make it in this business when on your first day you can't even sell a bloody stunner. You know. Yeah, I'm sure he is a tough guy to work with, but in all he's talk and all he's giving out and he's hiring and he's firing, you know, you'd think the guy would go out there with something to prove and why I suppose he is and has had that spot and why he is Vince's right-hand man for so many years, that he'd go out and nail it out of the ballpark. But if anything, I thought it just fell completely flat and the crowd just went...
I thought he gave it his first run on the mic and he kind of lost that battle. I felt like the first time he was able to talk, he knew, I'm sure Triple H stood there and kept his mouth closed and said, you know, step it up a bit, John. Just give it a bit of a kick, because he came back then after Cena probably, I think, had talked at that point, and at that point he sounded more like the kind of Bischoff kind of lilt up and down, and he was kind of doing it at that point. So, you know, use him a bit more. I just don't know. I mean, they've always talked about how he's a guy in a suit, and that's why he's quite loved in the office, if you like. I think it was Cornette who used to say that you know, they love a guy in a suit like that who can kind of be the boss and maybe tell people off, etc. But, you know, it's a good role. I was actually shocked to see he did, because again, we've definitely mentioned his name a lot, and you kind of think that maybe a lot of others did, because I never kind of solely will say, go, right, we are after creating this idea, because obviously a lot of people see it and kind of think the same things. But that's Laurinaitis. I don't know, I want to see more though. I definitely want to see more.
Yeah, I think having him around it would be good. You need somebody, I suppose, like you say, the suit guy. Trips kind of does it in his suit, but at the end of the day he'll always be seen as Triple H, the wrestler or whatever, you know. Where Laurinaitis, I'm surprised they didn't do it in reverse. Give Laurinaitis the COO position.
Yeah,
you know.
yeah.
But then again, maybe it probably would make more sense for Triple H, obviously, because of his real life position to do it.
Here's one for you. I know that they were talking about bombs and things like that. They were talking about bombs, but I think there was another reference made to a bomb that actually really made me think that was an insider term. Did you notice this week there was a constant array of people dropping the mics on the mat, and you get that hissing sound?
Right.
Now, I don't know if you look back at that, but Punk actually calls out, he called it a pipe bomb, which I felt was a real kind of insider term, that it's like the production guys are like, don't give me a pipe bomb, because it's a sound problem, isn't it?
Right,
Like, I dropped
right.
but it was almost like a theme of the show. Every segment ended, I know it often does, but it was like an in-joke for the entire
I didn't
deal.
cop it. I remember the Punk one.
Yeah, and I heard him talking about bombs again. I went, maybe that wasn't it, but I kind of thought that's what they are, pipe bombs, when they drop them. I thought that was incredible. But
it's funny.
Is this Triple H thing ultimately now swerving us? Are we looking at McMahon? Right, he's gone, he's off the TV for a little while, but then maybe one last angle, Triple H, Stephanie, McMahon at WrestleMania coming up, the next one.
Well, yeah, I suppose the question there is, will it be CM Punk, Triple H? Do you reckon?
CM Punk, Triple H.
Whoever gets the
Yeah.
Punk, I suppose if Punk stays...
With McMahon involvement as kind of guys.
Possibly, yeah.
Yeah.
I suppose with if they kept it rolling, they could probably do it. And whoever does get the position with Punk, if he's still as relevant as he is now, it would be a good spot for anyone to be in. Be it Jericho coming back, or be it well, it won't be Cena, I'm sure, if he's tied up with The Rock, Orton, anyone, depends. But whoever does get that spot, if Punk, as I say, does stay relevant, will be a happy camper, because I'm sure that would be the big one for Mania.
If we're seeing Laurinaitis now, it makes me wonder how far off we are from seeing Stephanie. And I would love, I think, seeing Stephanie back. She's the most underutilised, I think, character. She's currently, I would say, kind of in the prime of, look, put her on TV, and she's kind of the age group that you see actors and stuff in these kind of drama series or whatever, and she's had decades, I think, of TV experience in a sense as well, because of being on in the various angles. But I think bring her back now. Don't wait maybe 5 years, 10 years. I know she probably has children. I mean, we never think of the real... I mean, they do leave the building and they have lives. But yeah, I would ultimately like to see Triple H, Stephanie McMahon. It feels like the time is ticking more than ever for Vince McMahon. And I'm worried about that, because it'll be a huge loss. And I mean in angles only, not the guy dying or anything.
Yeah. Across the board, I think it would be obviously a big loss. But yeah, dead right, Stephanie is perfect timing. Especially now that Punk's kind of called her out some bit and has gotten under Tripp's skin a bit with his promos, mentioning her here and there. Timing would be good. They should do it like they did with Tripp's coming back, just out of the blue with that. What was she using, that old WrestleMania music, or was that Linda? You remember the boom boom?
All I remember, I can remember her coming
really
out with Foley. I can remember Linda coming out with Foley. I can't remember anything.
Yeah, it was the real naff, that real naff WrestleMania team.
They just
from
stuck
the
a team
90s.
on her, yeah.
Yeah.
I remember now, yeah.
Or maybe she used the Vince team. Or maybe she had her own team for a while. But anyway, whatever the bloody music is, a shock return from her would be pretty cool.
Captain Charisma said he once saw a backstage hidden video of Stephanie. Well, I didn't ever hear that one. SP103, when you hit 66 or so, no matter how good in shape you are, you still lose a mental half step. He was showing that.
Pump it up. That's the one I'm thinking of.
That's right. Yeah, occasionally this wire here, wire audio sometimes go off. This wire here is dodgy. That's Maplin for you. Don't ever trust Maplin at all. Overpriced rubbish, really, isn't it? I mean, Maplin, not a great chain, but and there's nothing alleged about that at all.
Handy for some electronics.
It was handy when you need to just get out there, get the thing
and run.
Exactly. Matty PNO, what he's saying about Triple H. He's always had respect, and Filibuster, Silent Rage. His nickname should be Future Endeavour. MacTac 90, John Cena talking about punching Laurinaitis in the face. I mean, that's all good. I see the talent backstage are loving all that.
Who? Oh yeah, absolutely, yeah.
I can just. Did you see actually? Was it what were they up to this week that they cut to backstage and they were all sitting, kind of cheering about something? What was that?
Was it not the week before when
maybe it was.
Ray won the belts at the start of the Raw?
Possibly,
or something
yeah.
like that. I think that's pretty funny when they have all the heels on one side and the baby face on the other.
Yeah, I want them to do that a bit more. Actually, it would be hilarious.
We must also talk later on actually about all the releases.
Was there several?
It was like 5 people released. Yeah.
I've actually I was going to say that this week that I've kind of gone on a bit of a diet from the old dirt sheet. I'm just going to change camera here. Always
That's
worried
okay.
about the audio and where the audio. We must be.
That looks cool.
Yeah, it's not too bad. We must be very careful, of course, because we don't want to reveal our stream key. We wouldn't want to do that at all.
No, sorry.
But yeah, so you can do that. We can do Skype later as well, just to keep it somewhat interesting for people on YouTube at .com/TheWrestleDope. So we've talked about Punk and Triple H. You know, that's the easy thing in a sense about this now is, you know, 40 minutes or so of this was that first 5 minutes opening segment.
That's
you
crazy.
saw
Yeah.
Punk coming out, you saw Triple H. I bet you were the same. It's like, there it is.
Yeah,
you know.
well, it went on forever, which is good.
That was a 25-minute segment.
Christ. Just goes to show, and I don't think, and you know, it really bugs me when people say on this week's Raw there was only 17 minutes of actual in-ring action. 17 minutes of wrestling. What is the world coming to? I hate that. That drives me mental, that does.
Because I asked myself the question, why was I able to concentrate on a 25-minute Punk and Triple H talking back and forth when an 8-minute 6-man tag, I'll fast forward it.
Yeah.
You know, I was wondering what the hell is it's all, I think it's just you just start to get kind of, I don't know, you just are bored by certain aspects of the wrestling and the booking, I think.
If you took away the commercials out of 2 hours, it's probably, what, about an hour and a half?
I would say, yeah, an hour and a half, 90 minutes usually.
90 minutes.
Yeah.
And if you had 90 minutes of solid wrestling every week, it would be the opposite. People being, oh, I want to hear some crazy shit. I want to hear some people, you know, getting angry about some shit that's going to happen in a couple of weeks' time at a pay-per-view. You know, you just can't win. So for that reason, all those people that say 17 minutes of wrestling, what's going on? Christ.
That's just such a classic, isn't it? But isn't it amazing? Like, it's funny because Triple H wrapped up. The old cliche was Triple H 20-minute promo. He actually wrapped up on the ball 19:59 and 20 minutes. That's when he stepped out. Then Punk called him back for the extra 5 minutes, which led it to 25.
That's great.
But I wasn't bored. You know, I didn't want to fast forward. So, like we were saying, I think this entire Raw was, we've got 2 weeks to talk our way to SummerSlam. Every single second counts, and they literally, didn't they, created angles in a night, like.
It's the way to do it sometimes, I suppose. Although, you know, they are leaving it late with the bookings, you know. You'd wonder from a business standpoint, is it the best of ideas and to sell tickets for those pay-per-views? I suppose either way it is one of the big four and it is LA. It probably will sell out or certainly be close to it, so I'm sure they've no worries.
Absolutely. Now, of course, now we have that new commentary team settling in for the second week of having JR back, and it's hilarious to hear Cole constantly referring to JR as a special guest, and you believe him when he's saying that. You're kind of listening to him going, he's right, he's only going to be here for Triple H's reign or whatever it is, and however long that will be. But overall, I mean, you know, JR is almost, you feel like he's a bit worried about Cole's strong position because he's very muted and he doesn't want to he's like, right, I've got my position back now, I'm not going to even touch the guy because who knows who's kind of gunning for me or him, you know.
I think he's afraid of Cole, to be honest with you. I think Cole stepped it up so much since he's taken on that character that he has in the last probably year and a half. That from an outside point of view, he's seen him develop the whole way, and he knows just how good he has become. He really has stepped it up that much, and he's not afraid to be a complete asshole, even when they're on live TV. on a Monday night, and he can get away with it, like we said earlier. But how far do you push it to really, I think, get under somebody's skin? I know he really is pushing it. But again, you know, they're grown-up men, and I'm sure it is the business that they've grown up in, and they are well used to it, so they can take it. But I would wonder if sometimes it would kind of get under your skin a little bit.
I would say so. I mean, I've heard so many things about how the commentary works, and if you think the politics goes on with the wrestlers, it's those announcers and the people like the Josh Matthews or whatever. You'd be surprised at like the spots. You know, guys are gunning for those spots as well. I mean, people like Stryker hanging around on NXT and that very kind of minimised role on SmackDown after what he came from for the last few months. And I think it's as cutthroat back there. I've heard talk of how, like, you know, suddenly you know, mics would cut and stuff, and for guys that maybe they didn't want on commentary. There's a very cutthroat world, I think, in that spot as well, and to keep that spot, I mean, they do tend to hold on to guys for a while. Mike Adamley's may be the exception. But overall, they do try and kind of hang on to a guy in that spot. I mean, if they put a guy there, Byron Saxton, I mean, he's still kind of hanging around. Was he FCW still?
Probably.
That was a bad aside. I shouldn't have gone that way. Byron Saxton is not a good way of talking about good commentary. Well, he's not too bad, really, is he? But yeah, I generally just found JR subdued. And here's another thing. Avoid the Raw replay like the plague. I know if you download it, you'll get that live version, but they cut the commentary to bits last week. You couldn't. It was constant silence.
Are you talking about the Raw replay on SmackDown or on Raw?
Well,
when they go
in
back
fact,
a week?
yeah, when you kind of see it not live on TV, they'll replay it and it'll be cut a little bit.
Alright.
They might kind of improve it a little bit picture quality wise because it's not live, but ultimately anyway, it's constant, like, cutting away to the audience, and you just 2 minutes of audio gone.
Right.
Awful. Really, you miss a hell of a lot.
You see, I've been watching the live one now for quite a while, so.
Yeah, I mean, even if you were to catch it on Justin, you'd never see this replay version, but if you're unlucky enough to need to see it, I think on a Thursday or something, absolutely avoid that if you possibly can, because it's just awful. Mandy PN01, Kozlov was the shits in my opinion, and McAttack 90, it always amazes me where the topics go. I love it, you know. I think we just watch the chat and call out what people are saying, but McAttack 90, what surprises me most is they didn't release JTG. Of course, he now was healing it up on SmackDown.
That was a strange combination, that whole thing, wasn't it? But we'll get there later on.
We'll get there as well. Captain Charisma adds every 15 minutes, not every 5 minutes. Well, that's true. That's a benefit of the replay.
Well, I think on this week's one, I'm sure that whole segment at the start probably had something to do with it. Normally they kind of break somewhere in that first half hour, don't they?
Yeah.
Or at least, I think it even went on a bit stronger, or longer, should I say. Stronger and longer. Yeah, there's a lot of ads, an awful lot of ads this week.
It's nuts actually, because you're sitting there watching it live. You really have to be in the mood for it, don't you? Because
middle of the Divas match, it was commercial.
When you tend to watch it, do you see US ads or UK?
US, yeah.
You do, right? Yeah. No, I mean, I remember the days of watching it on the USA, because you actually get a hell of a lot more when you watch it on American TV. You see all those kind of movie promos.
It's crazy. Yeah, it's food. It's just all food.
Yeah. It's
BK Whopper.
Oh yeah. It's would you? Yeah, I mean, sometimes I have caught it here. I was going to say Justin, but no, I definitely wouldn't catch it here on live stream at all. That's the one thing, you see, guys are coming in now for TNA pay-per-views on Justin. So maybe they might see us on the WrestleDope radio channel on Justin. And by the way, if you have just kind of come back in here again this week after the break or of the few weeks, we will hopefully be doing some stuff on Justin again. I was thinking maybe, and I was going to say this to you, for the pay-per-view, we just fire on there. I mean, that was our spot. When the pay-per-view's on SummerSlam, back to Justin for the night.
Okay.
It doesn't, at this point, if they close the channel, it just doesn't matter. You know?
That's true. Yep. Okay.
That could be
How
fun.
about can we do both at the same time? Or
that is actually, it would minimize the quality a little bit, but overall it actually can be done. Maybe we should test that.
Maybe we should do our live stream as per usual, and then drift over to Justin for the pay-per-view.
Yeah, that's actually,
maybe not.
See, I just kind of want to, in a way, not that they absolutely care or give a damn, but I'd love to just not ever put ourselves, in a sense, up there, unless it's for a reason like pay-per-view viewers, you know. Because we can be here and more or less, you know, same people come in, which we're thrilled about, you know, that you'd actually come on over as well. And like I say, when I saw guys like 91Ks and saying, I didn't really, I mean,
that's cool. That's cool. I know maybe Justin is probably the best way to go for SummerSlam, because it will be a big one, I'm sure. You know, it's up there with the Rumble and Mania, so it will be a good place to be, as opposed to here where we're just finding our feet. We might find some of our old peeps that do come in just for the pay-per-views as well, and we can let them know where we are these days, in case they might be wondering, but probably